now? Are we? We're
Yes, I think we are live now.
all right.
All right. So, yes, let me.
So, Chris, you've been doing meme analysis. You initially came to me with the idea you should do a meme YouTube channel, and I was like, that sounds dumb, and it turns out it wasn't. It's actually really good.
Thank you. Yeah.
My initial thoughts of it being like, I don't know what I thought it would be, but I didn't have the vision. I think you have a meme vision, a meme analysis vision.
I think it's being in the culture consistently. Like you're surrounded by memes. At least I am surrounded by them. You know, it's almost like without meme analysis, what would we? I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna check the health of the stream. Let me just see that it's on the channel.
We could even post it to the Freud group and
yes, I'll put it up.
Yeah, and we could actually, and I think StreamYard has a 6-person max, but we could like have 4 more people if they wanted to. Be like, hey, if anyone wants to.
Good idea.
Jump on, shoot the shit.
All right, let me share it then. I got the link.
Quarantine style.
Oh yeah, we out here spreading. You know, we can carry the plague. We'll spread it.
Yeah.
That's something I've been thinking. That's what I've been thinking about. The mimetic element of the plague. Like it's not just.
Oh, it's viral. What a perfect time for meme analysis in this time of viruses.
Yeah, we need it. I think I was thinking about how that is Burroughs' like a really great, brilliant idea. Overall is the image virus, the word virus.
I think people like to ascribe meaning as explanation that simply is it's a wrong explanation. Like the explanation isn't necessarily in the realm of a narrative or an archetype. Sometimes it's simply viral replication, right?
And I think, that's another element that Burroughs is getting at, is that applying a rational meaning to virus is pointless, because something he gets at a lot is a biological necessity in the being itself. Like Deleuze talks about Burroughs' idea of the animal having, anus, mouth all in one orifice. And so I think that tells a lot.
How does that tell a lot? What does that mean? That is the anus.
That's like the virus. The virus does not need a logical structure. It simply, it is an effective being in itself. Like it doesn't need and that's, I think, what we get.
Even knowledge of what structures, like the human is like human, right? And then humans have like a head, legs, arms, and stuff. But we also have a certain protein binder in our lungs, which the virus was able to figure out structurally about us, and we were not able to figure this out about ourselves.
But then I think to an element, I think oftentimes viruses spread through psychic means. Like it's not as if a disease could happen without there being a necessity for it. People would not, you know what I mean? There is a necessity for biological experience. I don't think it's as if everybody is simply susceptible to tiny little beings. I think.
Why not? Why would it be so awful if people were susceptible to tiny little beings like viruses? We clearly are. We clearly don't have conscious control of what we are susceptible to.
I don't know.
We are membranous, and I think that's the true terror, is to find out our skin does not hold out the outside, that we do have virus.
I don't know. Because if we have a viral structure, because we ourselves function as viruses, as the Matrix famously, humans are the virus. If we assume this, if we can assume that humans are viral as well, do we not enter into this realm of microcosm? That's kind of my assumption, that
the microcosm posits macrocosm, which posits the ideal large as the real thing. I don't think it's microcosm is the best word. It's almost like an archetype. Like get away from that. Just go into the material sort of process, which you said, like the thing infects the thing, which doesn't even understand what the thing consists of. Like I don't even understand what I consist of in terms of a protein binder that a virus can get into my cell and replicate hundreds of itself or thousands of itself and then destroy it. Like you don't need to, like, it's the challenge. It's like by the time viral replication is happening, it's already much too late.
It's too convenient.
What do you mean
it's too convenient to have little monsters that exist.
Viruses, I'm not saying little monsters, but viruses exist.
But that's what viruses are, little monsters. Viruses, I think, are the products of human fictionalizing. How can we establish a system, like, a lot of people, very powerfully denied the existence of germs. A lot of people still are not confident in germ theory.
I didn't know there were germ deniers. Who's a germ denier?
Wilhelm Reich. I don't know if I'm a germ denier.
Bacteria exists.
I am saying
a virus exists.
There is a mutual. There is a necessity for the concept. Like, just like I was talking
for the concept.
Did you watch my video on the black hole?
Which was that posted today? Because
no, this was back in like 28 or back in like.
I'm probably because I definitely watched all the early ones. I think I'm only like 1 or 2 vids behind. But remind me.
I talked about how the shape of the black hole, and the symbolism of the black hole, like the creation of this black hole and the black sun.
Was that in the Wojak?
No, it's a while.
The black hole brain Wojak.
Well, do you remember the picture that they took of the black hole?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I remember that. Yeah.
And I'm saying like that. Yeah. We manifested black holes based on the concept of black suns and black stars from alchemy and magic. Like my argument, and this is the argument that that Pauli and Jung are making, is that much of what we observe scientifically is a product of human structure. Perhaps there is something that causes sickness, but we can only perceive it as viruses, which is to say we can only perceive it as little monsters. What I'm saying is that it might be a good idea to not take what we see as truth. I don't think it's a good idea to blindly
What part of this story? No, what part of this virus story are you not buying? Because the virus story is essentially viruses exist. They get into so the coronavirus gets into your lungs. It goes into the cell, reproduces itself. It causes distress, lung distress, for some people it causes death. What part of that are you like not buying? That it's just
so.
Like, and don't say all of it.
There was a Roman.
Yeah.
There was a Roman thinker, and he came up with germ theory. He was like the first dude.
That's not answering. That's a historical.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I can't buy that we've had this idea of germs for a long time, and it just so happened to be right. I think it's very suspect that some dude in ancient times was like, there's probably little monsters that cause sickness.
Well, food decay, maybe. Like, I think food decay had the hint in terms of food decays and it smells bad and it makes you sick. And it has like a little change. You can see something's happening to it, but you don't quite know what it is. Right? Maybe I think that hinted at germs. It could be.
I don't know, because they thought it was phlogiston. They thought that it spontaneously decayed and that maggots happened spontaneously.
No, some people thought that. But I bet the person who had germ theory did not think that.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying germ theory is suspect because it shares a likeness with fiction. I have the same argument for like carbon-based life forms. It's too similar to Heraclitus.
What is suspect? What in terms of my narrative? Do you think? Oh, here's me. Like I'm trying to figure you out. I'll be like Aquinas. I'm gonna try to like figure out the Catholic Church here. That's you and why you're correct. I think you're correct in terms of like there's a symbolic extra like extrapolation, like a world that the virus creates that's outside of the material processes. And insofar as it does that, we should suspect it's sort of symbolic ordering nature in terms of the viruses, of course. has these wide symbolic effects. But also I guess the language. You don't like the signifiers themselves. You want to bust through the signifier? Yeah.
If we could do away, because here's the other thing. Like, many diseases do not follow Koch's postulates. Like, it's not as if we can say confidently every disease that we have said exists does exist. Like, you know what my favorite example is? And this is something that this is one of my favorite ideas because I have fun going against science. This is, I think it's important. I think it's amusing because it's such a dominant structure.
Yeah.
I think prions.
Remind me.
Prion, like people, you know about the cannibal tribe, and they got like kudzu. They spasm and laugh and die because their brains are being eaten. They eat people's brains, and in turn, their brains are eaten by prions, which they got by eating brains. So prions are really bizarre because we have no idea. But
their language is super present. Language is very present for that idea.
Absolutely. That's why I think it's an important one because you also can get prions by eating deer. People think you can get it by eating deer, and because there's like deers get prions, and it's called wasting disease because they waste away. That people your brain gets gets like spongy. It's called like spongiform prions. So it's only been noticed. So it's only in humans in like two forms. The deer wasting, which is uncommon, but most importantly, in the kudzu, in the tribe that ate people, and it only happened after they started being observed by the British. In fact, they thought it was psychosomatic. They thought that this was a psychosomatic disease. And then two, in hereditary insomnia, it's a familial event. And something that happens is that contact with brains, like some people that do, some brain surgeons get prions because prions go through gloves. You can't burn them. You can't irradiate them. Nothing kills them. And you can't sanitize anything that's had them. My argument is essentially that these are manifestations of taboo, especially the manifestation of the cannibalism taboo.
I have a look at the prions.
They're really spooky.
A prion is a point particle. It's a sub. Wait, what?
It's a broken piece of protein.
Oh, prion protein. Oh, it's like a partial protein. But
nobody knows how they occur.
Prion protein, a pathogenic misfolded protein. Interesting. And they shaped on a normal proteins, and then they dissolve the cell after the misshapen thing replaces the shaped thing. It dissolves it.
And a lot of people think this will be the cause of a seriously bad plague because there's no treatment at all, and it kills 100% of the people who get it.
Huh. Really?
And it just happens too, and it takes a long time. Like if you get it, you could die 50 years later and not even know that it was that. Some people think that's why certain people get dementia.
You think Alzheimer's? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's really a prion. I wonder if you could see if they ate deer.
And that's the thing. Like, but then my argument is this: like, if it's cannibalism, it does act as a manifestation of taboo because it's a very easy way to get prions. And then people would say, "Oh, but what if the cannibalism taboo happened because people that ate people got prions?" But I think because otherwise they would have stopped thousands of years ago. There would have been a taboo in that culture as well. If everybody had died of the same thing, you think everybody would have stopped. So my argument is that this entrance of the British with their cannibalism taboo established prions in the tribe.
All right. So prion, from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, prion diseases are transmissible spongiform encephalopathies are a rare family of neurodegenerative disorders that affect both humans and animals. They are distinguished by long incubation periods, characteristic spongiform changes associated with neuronal loss, Maybe that's why radiation misforms and maybe spongiforms. Who knows? Who knows? And a failure to induce inflammatory response. The causative agents of TSEs are believed to be prions. Prions refer to abnormal pathogenic agents. They're transmissible and able to induce abnormal folding of specific normal cellular proteins called prion proteins, and are found most abundantly in the brain. And then you can get is that bovine spongiform? Is that mad cow disease?
Yep.
Mad cow disease is a prion. Chronic wasting disease. Human Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. The internet. My internet intuition tells me immediately see what a patient looks like when they're.
Tom, you'll hate You'll hate
it.
I'm
Jesus!
going,
look at this. Look at this guy.
Yeah, and if you see the brains, they're spooky.
Oh really?
Yeah, just full of holes.
Yeah. So they just kind of space out at a certain point. Just sort of their brain just stops functioning, stops clicking together, as it will for all of us.
I'm working on a story where lab-grown meat ends up having prions, and everybody ends up having like meat growing machines in their house to have food. And unknowingly, everybody ends up getting prions because they're not able to sanitize it. You'd have to buy a new machine like every month.
Yeah. Do we want to invite people? Have you invited people?
Yeah. I mean, let me. I'm not sure how to do it. Who do you want to have on?
I'll send the
send the link.
Yeah. Okay.
Join
via this link. I put it in the comments.
Oh, that's right. I can control who comes in.
4 more. Room for 4 more. No homo. Okay.
But all right, we've had our disease. Let me think of any other great, exciting concepts. Let's talk about hyperstition. Let's talk about
what about Oh yeah, let's talk about how I've been using the Necronomicon to worship the fire god and induce demons. Let's talk about that.
So, but yeah, Necronomicon functions. It does in fact function hyperstitionally.
Yeah, I feel like that might even be its most I don't know. Like that's the obvious property, which is you do the chant. It embodies a sort of narrative, a symbolic sort of virus. Reproduces itself in you, and then it attaches with your signifiers, and then you're able to utilize it, and you restructure reality in the name of the spell. But maybe that's simple. Seems simple.
But I think an important element is that book in particular makes the connections to 777 and to Crowley's pantheon. By doing that, by making that symbolic link, and by having, now there's a lineage from ancient gods to Lovecraft's equivalents, you're kind of just you're growing a tension that was absent. Like, this is my argument against a lot of like kind of purely entertaining art. It lacks the ancient characteristic that gives tense meaning. So when you have this growing tension, which is produced by the 777 connection in the beginning of the book.
What do you mean by the 777 connection? What power, like that's a number which is a placeholder for something. What do you mean by the 777 connection?
The Crowley has a book called 777.
Yeah, what about
the opening? Yeah. Do you have the Necronomicon with you? If not, I'll get
I don't. I have it. I keep it at work because that's when I need it the most.
The book opens up. It opens up with a. It starts out with a excerpt from Crowley's book 777, and it says like, "Oh, this Crowley god is this Lovecraft god." It's 777's a book of correspondences. Okay. So by making this I'll try to get. I'm not going to get up and get the book.
Is it true though? Like, does Lovecraft specifically do Crowley, or are they Like
Yeah,
a
it just
similar-
happened. It just
yeah,
happened to be that
okay.
way. What's his name? Kenneth Grant, who's one of Crowley's students. He did the work to say, yeah, they are operating. They're in like the same collective unconscious pool.
Okay.
Like Jung also had similar experiences to Crowley. Hess, like a bunch of people at this time were picking up on similar, ideas.
Makes sense.
But that's my argument for the effectiveness of what's it called? Of Lovecraft and of the Necronomicon. Lately people have been doing like CCRU magic. They've been picking up something called the numogram, and they're actually getting a lot of work done. And the demons are called lemurs.
Yeah.
And they're in communication with lemurs.
I don't know much about the lemurs. Do you know much more than what you don't know about what they're talking about?
I'm not. I mean, I know people that have talked to lemurs, but I'm not like in it myself.
Yeah.
I don't know, because again, like,
what is Nick Land's lemur verse? Why does he hate people and love lemurs?
they are they're pneumatic.
How so?
Okay, that's funny. I meant, but that was a good slip because they are that too, but they're numeric. They are numeric and they are pneumatic.
How does pneumatic? Oh,
just
pneumatic.
air.
Yeah.
Spirits that are dissolved into air.
Ideal numbers that function. They're programs. Programs are like that. Like your hardware. You have your hardware, and then you put a program, and it functions to do something very effectively. But it has this. There's a material basis, but that's almost to miss its. How much of it is nothing at all,
And it's never, so much that's great is nothing.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's like one of the lasting and beautiful things about land is the hyperstitional magic that actually works for people.
Yeah.
I always find that to be very impressive. Like whoever can establish a good hyperstitional cult is impressive to me.
You know what's interesting to me? Like the computer program is like so much nothing, and yet we look at our brains and we attempt to read it. Imagine if you opened a MacBook without knowing anything about computers and try to figure out like what electric impulse meant this for this and how that made be totally impossible, right? What's the idea that I think behaviorists and physicalists think they have access to our brain. I think they do, but I think there's probably something of a hardware kind of nature in our head. People like try to move past the computer model, but I think they missed the most important thing was that we have hardware that runs software.
That's kind of the Deleuzian point now of circuitries and these endless techni that are, indecipherable using some common view.
Yeah.
It's impossible to know all of the currents and how it produces what we have.
We don't have any source code material.
I think that's also what's beautiful about the Death Drive. It's just this endless series of evolutions that led to what we have, and it's impossible to know. It's impossible to... And I think that's why we really do a disservice when we show, like, monkey, man. And I think this is, like, the beauty in Nietzsche's evolution, too. Just endless change, and it's not about survive. It's not about.
Now eventually you get me.
Yes, it's not about improvement.
It's just
about
the big ear man.
What Joker says, what's it called? Doesn't kill you makes you stranger. And I think that is literally Nietzsche's concept. Funny man.
Maybe.
No, he just says. He says it's not about becoming stronger or better. It's just surviving.
Yeah.
Just continuing.
What is your understanding? You were going to say something about will. What is your understanding about Nietzsche and will? I always see it as a very much dissolving the symbolic. In a similar way, you were talking in terms of the words. I don't quite trust the words. When Nietzsche says, "I don't trust systematizers," or you can even say systems like words.
Have you read Blood Meridian?
No, I haven't read Blood Meridian.
Oh, it's so good. It's like the greatest book I've ever read, I think. But in it, the judge, who is this great being, who is kind of the perfect expression of will. He is himself perhaps the most willed being on Earth at the time, and he gives these great lectures, and nobody understands them who's listening to it, but he essentially talks about how life needs to be fated, because anybody in a random situation where one survives and one dies, or the myth, the classic American story of two people playing cards, they're playing poker, and the only thing to bet is their life.
Yeah.
And he says, you'd have to be a fool to assume that it's random. You'd be a very dull man indeed if you don't assume that there is a willed nature and fate to it. And he sees himself almost as the great flow itself. He embraces the fate so wholly, there's no fear in him as to what is willed. And he comes upon the idea that God is war, that war is God, because it is the ultimate test of wills, strong against weak endlessly.
I was just thinking about how much is a gladiator game repeated, in terms of perhaps that's like insofar as it's survived archetypally, what has survived from Roman culture more presently than like the gladiator game. The gods were just everywhere, so that survived, but the gladiator game really, it sort of survives in this other kind of way.
I've been listening.
There's just everything there. There's like, there's death, there's the triumph, there's the king in the crowd, there's the crowd themselves,
the entertainment,
the master slave, the entertainment.
I've been listening to the song, the march, the entry of the gladiators, the clown song. It's wonderful.
Synchronicity there.
It was because what's it called? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he actually wrote, he made it, and it was originally just called the Chromatic March, but he was reading a book on Rome, and it was so fascinated by the gladiators, he called it that. And so it was initially meant to laugh at, there was an irony that it was clowns, the entry of the clowns to that song, but it's become, the meaning of it has been lost. So it sticks around. That's where you see the survival.
What do you do Friday? Imagine if on Friday nights you could go to a big arena and watch people fucking killing each other with swords. Fucking crazy. Talk about entertainment.
I mean, is that not what the virus death count is? There's just that same. Oh my god! Wow, you'd be in a way.
Hurricanes
if it happens every year.
That's what we've got in terms of we've located barbarism in the past. Big mistake, first of all. But we have located a barbarism in the past, so our entertainment fights against that, I guess, idea of just pure barbarism. And I think that's why we have hurricanes instead of gladiator fights now. Hurricane spectacles on the news, or virus spectacles, or whatever.
Then the other element of will that I was going to talk about is from Eliphas Levi, who directly influences Crowley. Crowley thought he was his reincarnation. But Levi is really interesting because he's the first, I think, to really advance magic, because he takes Schopenhauer and is like, yes, here's how to use the will to do things. And it's very fascinating. He has these ideas about like how sexuality is a competition of wills, and that a person that's too strong will just destroy their partner. They'll suck all their power away.
Yeah.
One individual takes on the intelligence.
But isn't that
of the
way?
group.
Yeah, but okay. Oh, that's a little more interesting. That first one's like, that's some obvious shit,
But that's what I'm saying. But that's
my least favorite. Sometimes people say that to me, and I'm like, that's a bullshit critique. But I think
he's in the 1800s. I think the time that he's doing it is what's interesting. Like, he's got a strong proto-psychology, and even says like fads and mental viruses are more contagious than than real viruses. And I think, at least I find
they're instantaneous, of course, because you have the symbolic unconscious, and if somebody can say something that your brain clicks as valid, and I like to think of it in terms of brain. If you had to do an idealism of the brain, Kantian categories, good, fantastic idealism, classic, no longer empirical. Your experience produces reason, perfect. But what about your brain is a series of valid, invalid coordinates, I think. And I think insofar as something gets in there, just like the virus in the lungs, you don't quite know how it works. Somebody can say something, and the coordinates just line up, and it goes, and you lock in and you go. You know, you can be hacked.
Yeah, if only we knew.
I mean, that's my job, is hacking people, in terms of like the whole book I wrote is like, this is what you do. So because your job is essentially to change people's mental state, how can you do this in the most ethical way possible? And I think the way is you use their material, and the most you can remove yourself, which doesn't totally remove yourself, is you just take the material and you juxtapose it, and you bring its contradictions, and then contradictions to, I guess, empirical analysis as well as sort of categorical analysis. And then you let it collide together until their algorithm machine works in a proper way that you yourself validate. So you are still there.
What do you think about the presence?
Well, which is very hack-like. No.
What do you think about the presence of Scientology in Los Angeles?
It's fucking. First of all, Scientology provided the Nation of Islam with lots of masks and respirators, which I know from my sources in the Nation of Islam, unironically. But yeah, it is wild. It's obviously a cult that abuses people.
Would you? Okay, but do you think that their auditing can be effective? Do you not, like, if you're talking about hacking, if psychology and therapy are hacking?
Do you think Nazis can be affected by freezing people to death by finding that? It's like, sure, but it's like, I think that the most important thing is their bullshit cult. You know.
But I think that's the same argument people would make about traditional psychoanalysis.
Not the same thing.
Both have serious cult elements.
Yeah, but one's like an abusive cult, and the other's works with the object of mental health.
I don't know.
You could say medicine is an abusive cult.
Yeah, you could. That's I'm one of the other things I'm writing is cult is a 4-letter word.
Cult is a 4-letter word. That's funny. Yeah.
I think the cult is likely one of the most effective forms of community.
Yeah.
For, I think, an impermanent a cult with a purpose, with a direct purpose, is likely the most effective thing. As long as it's not a permanent cult, it's probably the best way to get something done.
Yeah. Maybe. A cult-like devotion to the thing, sure.
To a solid goal. The second that it's something eternal, or that it's something that is impossible in a lifetime, then it's worthless. But if you had a cult devoted to, like, I don't know. I can't even think of a worthy purpose.
It doesn't matter if it's worthy. It doesn't do anything. I mean, you could say there's a cult, a government, there's a series of cults. Well, the way I always see it is there's orders within parties. You have like a party, which is like say Freud is a party. Then you have orders, which are like totally multiple, like all over the place. Like
that's why there's the necessity of the religious aspect of the cult. There needs to be like a legitimate devotion.
Maybe, just no. I mean, that's it's always better that people aren't like having a bad time. Sure.
Jim just reminded me, because I don't know what RCC stands for, but it reminded me of the Rosicrucians. The Rosicrucians are a hyperstition. It was started as a joke.
I have the Rosicrucian. Where's my Rosicrucian? I have my Rosicrucian book somewhere here.
A guy wrote the Rosicrucian doctrine as a joke. He wanted it to be seen as a joke.
Oh, he definitely.
But then everybody started coming like, where do they all meet? Like,
my name's Rosenstock, right?
Yeah, you got the connection. I have Christian.
It's true.
So we now have Christian Rosenstock.
Yeah, we have the Rosen. There it is. Wait, signifier wise. But let me get this really quick. Hold on. This is the one I got,
okay, so it's the old stuff. I have some of the old manuals from Spence, like when he started AMORC. Jim, do you want to come into the video chat? Jim's been here.
We got
Woodcock.
Woodcock, what a name.
Nice.
Well, yeah. What about, are you gonna do a video on that meme? The nice cock meme?
I've been thinking, because I'm thinking about doing, all right, Jan, whatever. I've been thinking about doing a Sonic video in
The
general.
Sonic. Oh,
So
okay.
if I do the
That would
Sonic
be,
video,
that would be a, oh, that's a good idea.
yeah, subset of Sonic. Because that's the problem. Like, if I make a video, just meme analysis, nice cock, it'll get banned. You know, it'll
Oh,
get
yeah, that's true.
demonetized
Oh,
and
that's
stuff.
so stupid. Yeah.
I know YouTube is oppressive. YouTube is bad.
Anyone else? YouTube is bad. Ergo, alt-light Jungianism. Support Jordan Peterson.
The only one. I need to. I'm gonna get meme analysis to Jordan Peterson, and I'm gonna say like, step one.
Just don't say you know me.
No, he doesn't like you. I'm sure he likes you.
I mean, no, I've met him once.
I remember. You told him you're gonna defeat him.
No, I didn't say. I said I'm gonna refute you. He said, "So go for it."
Yeah, it's so sad that he's in trouble.
Do feel, yeah, I mean,
I feel really bad for him.
It's because his ideology is bad, and that's why
he's reaping.
And ergo, you feel bad. It's not your ideology is bad and you should feel bad. It's your ideology is bad. Ergo, you feel bad.
He's reaping what he sowed. He should not. Yeah. I think he knew he was not capable of being famous, and he went for it anyway.
Yeah.
You ever see the interview where he's talking about his
what do you mean he's not capable of? He clearly was capable of being famous.
If he was capable of being famous, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have what's it called? He wouldn't have been destroyed by it. If he were good at it, he would have been happy.
Should we do some bibliomancy?
Sure.
The word is precious.
Mm.
Here we saw nothing but fine and precious workmanship. The higher we went, the more splendid the decorations became.
The decorations?
The decorations became.
Mm-hmm.
At length, we came out on top into a painted vault where 60 maidens were awaiting us, all daintily dressed. They're like, join my cult. There's 60 maidens daintily dressed.
That's more than a lot of cults have.
Yeah, it's like the other place says darts, man.
I'll do this one. Ask a question, and I'll give it.
Ask a question. Okay, my question is, what should I add to my internal future predicting algorithm?
Okay. I'll go with, all right. He held 7 stars in his right hand, and from his mouth arose a well-sharpened, double-edged glaive. His visage was as bright as the sun in full force.
What's a double-edged glaive? What's a glaive?
I'm thinking it's just a sword, double-edged sword.
It's a European polearm consisting of a single-edged blade at the end of the pole. I said, what should I add to my future predicting? A glaive. That's a fucking great idea. Yeah. I think
what it says by holding 7 stars and then being able to produce a weapon that will make it'll give a weapon aspect.
7 elements.
So apparently it's like, what's it called? The apocalyptic key.
Yeah.
In the Bible, that's supposed to be like the seven stars that are held.
Okay.
Because I think 7 stars fall, or all the stars fall from the sky. But
elliptic 7 stars. 7 trumpets. 7 trumpets are sounded one at a time to cue the apocalypse. All right. What are the 7 trumpets? Brass trumpet. There's the shofar. Nice, we got that one. There's the 2nd trumpet, which great mountain of fire. 3rd trumpet, great star called wormwood falls to earth. Poisoning
makes all the water bitter.
Sources. Men will die from drinking its bitter taste. 4th trumpet. Following the sounding of the 4th trumpet, a third of the light that shines from the sun, moon, and stars becomes dark. So darkness. Bad water, darkness, fire. Woe.
War, plague, famine given unto the earth.
Woe is just depression. Woe is just depression. Okay, Fifth trumpet is depression. Sixth trumpet is second woe.
They're probably just
Double depression. And then third woe, final woe. That's bullshit. 3 woe.
I think that the demons are being released.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The various
mounted horsemen. Oh yeah. So the 4 in the second woe, the 4 angels are released from their binds.
Do you recall the part where the angel gives the scroll to John and he says, like, this will taste sweet as honey in your mouth and it will be bitter in your stomach?
I'm Jewish, so I don't know any of that.
Okay. Man, so Revelation is so important, though. Like,
yeah, I should read it anyway.
I think that's the myth to read. Like, that's the fundamental one.
It's weird how I do still sort of identify as Jewish, even though I have no affinity for any of the holidays, any of the traditions, any of that.
Any eschatology, any culture's eschatology, I think, is important. This is the way the world ends.
Not with a bang, but with eschatology.
Yes. Have you read The Stand?
The Stand.
Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really interesting idea in it where essentially, or at least this is my reading of it, like, so certain characters who have strong psychic abilities can send dreams because 99% of humanity is killed off. But then those that are left have a huge psychic connection. I think that would actually happen. The collective unconscious would be shrunken down to such a tiny size that...
Isn't that the dream that already exists, that there is like, oh, the chosen... That's the idea of the chosen few of the humanity.
Nah.
Well, no, but that's my critique. I have to critique.
How can there be
I must critique.
How can there be a chosen few? I've never.
That's the idea. That's the Ender's Game idea. That's the repeating idea of. Insofar, I think it's an important idea because we only have access to a certain amount of people versus the entire world. So in a sense, you have no choice but to look at it through the chosen few model experience.
You're always the chosen few. Yeah. I mean, I think, or at least I think that I think there are a chosen few. I just don't think that it necessitates the survival during the end of the world.
Well, and not thinking about language, like so many people are so fixated on the humanity idea as a single whole, rather than the tribal, like us versus outside. And then there's just a vast, endless supply of humanity, right? So we sort of forgot to think the other way. I think we've been so indoctrinated in big picture thinking that we've forgot the sort of basic survival lesson, I think, of you and the outside, right?
I often think about it. I often think that's, one of the first keys to making people who have been made miserable by the internet. They have to reestablish their, circle, who their chosen few are, because they've spread themselves thin with using the internet.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah, it could be. And of course, the internet, it makes you conducive to big picture thinking, like the world, even like coronavirus. It's like you could simply see the coronavirus as a personal issue.
Yeah, and I think it should be, because I read a comment today and it was just so ridiculous. It was like, because somebody said, oh, it's probably going to spread to the Midwest. And somebody commented, like, how do I prepare for this other than just pacing around in my room? Like, why do you need to respond to it? Why
think of all the moral statisticians in terms of, it's like, well, you can't ignore because you ignore, then you'll infect other people, which could be true. But it's seen as an inevitability. That's, I think, why it's worth challenging a little bit in terms of you inevitably have to, you're the superego imperative to moral calculus, that's sort of like your brain is sort of, the demand on you is so strong to participate in moral calculus when it's simply totally unnecessary, really.
Let me think. So what do you think about extrasensory perception?
Extrasensory perception?
Do you experience it in the office with a patient? Do you have psychic
insofar as everybody thinks it exists except me and my supervision, I really have to put my foot down.
You really don't?
How
do you account for transference?
Do you think it's ESP? Signifiers.
That's what Freud thinks. That's what Freud says. Transference is
Citation.
essentially telepathic.
No, that's not what it means.
It is. It is.
No,
Honest to God. I'll
not
get the book. I have
citation needed, bro.
I have
Citation.
psychoanalysis.
Even
in the
if Freud
occult.
said it, it's still bullshit. But citation definitely needed anyway.
So you don't think that there is a
ESP? I think that's it. The idea that so many people hold on to stuff like that is preposterous to me. The fact that we have the sort of wealth of scientific knowledge, and we're still.
But we know that
with these basic errors.
We know that ESP exists, though. It does function.
We know that ESP exists. First of all, that doesn't even make sense. Like you can see it's rhetorical device. We know that. First of all, no. One, it doesn't exist. Two, I know that something that doesn't exist exists.
Why does the CIA? The CIA utilizes it.
Well, they try to, because CIA is a bunch of fucking retards too. A bunch of hicks who want to be USA people, so they join the CIA and they fucking say ESP is real. That's not surprising to me. People are retarded.
All right. Do you think that time is relative in the unconscious?
Time is relative in the unconscious. Yes. Yeah. Time does not go tick 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 tick.
So can we assume that the same case exists for space, or is space objective? Space is not relative
in the unconscious. Space, in terms of your memory of space, sure.
So space is relative in the unconscious.
I would say space is a lot less clear about what you mean by it. I think time is very clear in terms of memory, or in terms of historical deep time, you could even say.
But time and space are relative. Yes. So the relativity of space and time in the unconscious would account for precognitive and prophetic dreams, telepathic experiences, because of the relativity of the locality of the unconscious.
I mean,
if the unconscious is not
relativity exists because things are relative, ipso facto ESP, because ergo we know that you can predict something fucking in space or some shit.
Yes. So do you disagree with the Landian concept of arriving from the future?
I think future is causal is real. Causal futures are real in terms of, say we predict something. I say, just very simple. Say you have terminal cancer. Your death arrives from the future. Our death already does. It's just not present. Our death already arrives from the future insofar as it orders our reality. So the future is causal.
So you don't believe in retrocausality?
Retrocausality, what do you mean?
Events causing themselves.
Of course, this is not what I said. Events cause themselves.
I'm saying the retrocausality is the Landian concept. Like
events cause them. Yeah, absolutely.
Basilisks cause themselves.
The fragmented things which order each other in one way and become ordered in the future cause itself in its whole ideal form already.
That is an example of the function of extrasensory perception. If there is retrocausality, where
I would say that's your problem solving unconsciously. That's not your psychic. That's different.
So you don't. Okay. So event in the future causing itself.
You don't know what you know, first of all, but you're registering certain things, and then your intuition creates it.
Yes. So, but we can agree, the mind, the unconscious, already knows how it will respond to said event. So
but it doesn't know how. It doesn't know that it already solved the problem.
But the form of the solved problem already exists, because it can only solve problems in so many ways.
I would say there might be a logical rationale to things which are outside the mind, and then your mind picks up on it.
Mm-hmm. So you don't think there's
also the mind to be a piece of that as well.
Like the point that Jung makes is that the awareness of something after the fact allows for one to already have, we already can access that information from the future now, because the unconscious is relative. That's the argument.
Sure.
Okay. So
all that psychic ability is not.
But that's what it is. That is what psychic abilities are. It's merely the accessing of information that one already knows.
Okay, I buy that.
Okay, that's all right. Then that's the whole point.
But I think when I think of psychic ability, I think of people are like tapping into an ethereal substance, which is not. But I can see that as sort of you're accessing these sort of problem elements and figuring out ways to solve them without necessarily your frontal lobe doing all the work. Like this equals this, 1 + 1 = 2, or 2 + 2 = 4, step 3 or whatever. Yeah, so that you're skipping this. You're sort of like you're trying to figure out how to use your brain, which you don't know how it works.
Exactly. That's that
essentially
is
in a large
exactly.
But it does problem solve.
What Notre Dame said is right. ESP is just intuition. I just think the argument for a more impressive use of intuition is not unjustified. And I think psychoanalysis provides the perfect situation.
I missed it. Jen, like 26 minutes ago. It's funny. I missed it. Jen, it's still happening. It's happening 26 minutes ago.
Everybody can hop on.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's important because I think that, and this is my whole point, like psychoanalysis should not, and the ideas of the unconscious, the philosophy of the unconscious should not be reserved to solely therapy. Like if you get shit like the Minority Report, precognitives actively working, you're going to have some prediction about the future that will going to be based on some
I don't know where I should post this. Should I post this on my wall?
However you like it.
With me and Chris.
But no, Jim, I think that there are people who have more effective forms of intuition. They have more access to that future, to the correct future.
Jim,
I don't know.
Jim Woodcock is on the YouTube link.
We do, and we have statistical evidence of said function.
Oh wait, start that over. I'm still like trying to invite people into this shit show, but maybe I shouldn't even bother doing such a thing. Because we are having all right.
No, like Princeton, they do research on this ability. Like there's research on something called the hot hand, where like if you're playing basketball and you get into the swing and you can just make these crazy shots throughout a game, that is getting into a kind of unconscious state which produces the efficiency of the game. And this can happen to an uncanny extent during certain like research. They do tests with it where you can like predict. You press a button and you would try to make a light go green rather than red, and it was completely random, but you could through intent make it, and so certain people could get it up to like fucking 7 times in a row, which is it gets more and more statistically impossible.
Chris, I just don't fucking buy it.
Okay. I'll send you the fucking shit. I want to see what you think.
I don't buy that you can make a random light generator turn green.
All right. I find that I don't know. I think that there's more to heaven and earth. And I think that the unconscious holds the majority of it. Literally. It's what we don't know.
What is that experiment called? Red, green,
look
light,
up PSYLERON, Cyleron. They produced the machines for this research.
Seems like some bullshit, but let me check.
Okay.
Cyleron, Conscious Research and Technology. So it's a current company, and it's a local company for you guys in New Jersey, correct? Okay. So they did. Yeah. I don't know if so. There seems like there could be odds that they're fucking, doctoring this shit.
Okay. But
what do you mean? Okay.
All right. I mean,
like,
let me say.
This is where the Jung hits the road.
What's it called? What? Okay. Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Pair. And they did a ton of this stuff. They did a ton of this research on random events, and that was one of the claims is like they predicted 9/11. But it's very fascinating. It's worth looking into. I don't think it's all garbage.
Well, yeah. I think sometimes the sleight of hand elements I reject immediately, of course. But in terms of so far as they are predictive based off of future predicting algorithms, which that's what I keep saying, right? Now we're back to what I said. Essentially, being is your essential future predicting algorithm, which gets material causality from the past and from other things.
I wish, Jim. I wish I was a Celeron sleeper agent. That'd be awesome.
Chris is a Celeron sleeper agent. Is that what they're saying? I agree. I agree that you are.
I'm going to get involved. I'm going to make MemeAnalysis is going to become it's going to be mandatory psychic testing, mandatory remote viewing. But I don't know. I think that and I don't know.
Well, for instance, I remember this one time, someone accused me of remote viewing once. My old supervisor, who was a real dick, like when I was initially a trainee, they're like, well, you can't just predict it. He's like, it's like just based off of somebody. He's like, well, for instance, what car do you think you drive? I said, I don't know, a 2010 fucking silver Corolla. He's like, it's a 2013 silver Corolla. How did you know? I'm like, because you look like a fucking guy who would drive a silver Corolla, and you're kind of boring. You're kind of a dickhead. So yeah, I think you'd buy a silver Corolla, and you did. So and he's like, well, there is remote viewing. I'm like, it's remote viewing, Ellie. You remotely viewed my. I was like, you just seem like a fucker that would buy a silver Corolla. I don't know,
But that's the same thing. It's the unconscious utilizing information given and producing accurate results.
Yeah, but it was funny because his whole point was that you can't stereotype based off of just things. And then that was the idea. And I did guess it right.
So his stereotyping can be remote viewing if it's accurate.
It can appear that way, but it's really, like I said, your mind is just a black box, and your programming is accurate sort of analysis of things, like any sort of computer.
You don't think there's a pre-existing.
I think the truth is I think the truth is also cool. Wetware.
Pre-existing way of doing that. A pre-existing software.
A pre-existing software.
Babies have plenty of intuition ability.
Yeah, sure, so absolutely.
You don't need
to. But that's what I'm saying. Your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but you don't necessarily need to program it.
Well, you have a protein release sequence that is effectively a program, your DNA program, right?
Is this where we return to?
Well, remember. Well, I said the most. Yeah. Well, did I already talk to you about this? The most essential way to understand humans is a series of chemical reactions. So, insofar as if you want to study a metaphysics and extrapolate, I think the most accurate thing you can study is chemical reactions and interactions because that is like what we are essentially and also cellular sort of.
That's the most Jungian thing I've ever heard you say.
Well, I think there's a material back, and that's why I say if you want to do that, I think insofar as we are material chemical reactions, I wonder what else functions like a material chemical reaction.
You should write the spiritual. You should write the spiritual sequel to Jung's Psychology and Alchemy and make it Psychology and Chemistry. It would be a bestseller.
Yeah, I don't know chemistry. Although being really good at chemistry made me bad at chemistry because I was so good in Chem 1. I had a 99% and I always knew all the answers and everyone would copy me. So the teacher stopped making me study and he made me his teacher's assistant. And so I was a teacher's assistant halfway through for the class before me. And so I stopped studying because I had all the answers. And then when it came time, I actually needed to know that info. I didn't know it. So I was actually good at chemistry at one point in my life. But then different path.
Right. Do you think that DMT gives access to the collective unconscious, and that is the reason for shared entities by multiple people alien to one another?
What?
So when people do DMT, they see many people. They see the same beings when they're high.
Do they?
They do. They have a few
Well, they say they
recurring.
see the same thing.
No, it's written down and shit. And then it all comes to, people will share it, and it turns out to, all correlate. Like, there's the meme of the machine elves. Everybody sees these machine elves, little
Yeah.
metal men.
Little
So
metal men, machine
little metal
elves.
men. And if you look at people who record it, you'll see archetypal patterns in the experience. You can look it up. Machine elves are going to be the first.
I just typed in machine elf DMT, non-alien creatures. The machine elf, coined by McKenna. After a minute or two, DMT, one may burst through a chrysanthemum like mandala. There's a whole bunch of entities waiting on the other side, saying how wonderful that you're here. You come so rarely. We're so delighted to see you.
McKenna entirely popularized the drug. It was barely utilized before that.
Yeah.
So or alternatively, this might be even stranger. Did McKenna create the form of DMT trip, and everybody just copies his archetype, his
Oh yeah,
prototype of it?
Yeah, definitely, probably.
So he created it. You don't think there's a pre-existing thing being accessed?
Oh, I'm sure there is a DMT the real of the chemical, of course. But I think I'm just agreeing with what you said at the beginning, which is, did he define that what Joe Rogan now popularizes as the DMT experience? Sure.
So I think so that can essentially, the collective unconscious can be formed by people. There are individuals who give archetypes for that generation.
Yeah.
It's not as, but that's
I
because
agree with that. Yes, the spirit is human, the human will and desire and language.
That's what I'm saying, Jim. I think that
and its viral property.
There is a prototypical form, but that prototypical form has archetypal background to it. It's not as if it's just out of nowhere. Jim, don't write your paper. Get into our chat. It'll be so much fun, even if it's just for a bit. But
hey, Jimmy, I've been saying that earlier for a different Jim. I've been saying Jimmy. I didn't even realize I could say that again. Twice in 1 week. Twice in 1 week.
Jim, you're killing me.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely no turn-on. He makes the great point. Shamanic cultures also experience the same entities. So there's definitely some pre-existing DMT-ness being accessed.
DMT-ness.
And then people think
DMT-ness. Lacan, anybody?
Yes, a bit of
the DMT-ness of the reality, and what when you break beyond language and the narratives through the DMT trip, and you also break through the visual stereotypes. You could say visual stereotypes will stay a lot longer than other sort of words, or you don't see words, but you see but there still are visual stereotypes. And then once you get into that, because it's harder to dissolve that because you're actively making one of those. But
here's been a thing that I found fascinating, even though it just slipped away. Okay, no, I got it back. But that shows powerful shit. So pandemic, the word play in pandemic is pan. You get the dem away, and it's panic. And demi, you have people.
Zizek's discovery.
It's true.
Yeah,
completely true.
Demi, I didn't see, was the people. Panic of the people.
Here's an idea that I think you'd find interesting, and that I think Lacan plays with from Crowley, which is that the collective unconscious is made up of Latin and Greek, because our language is built of those prefixes and suffixes and so on. The etymology, the etymology of language. Excuse me. The etymology of language produces, very interesting ideas.
Yeah. To break through the outsideness. Does anyone else outsideness? I almost feel like I hate the accelerationist writers who just echo Land. That's so annoying.
There's nothing
That's
interesting.
that's what Twitter does.
You know who the most interesting accelerationists are? Peter Carroll in Liber Null. He has a very interesting, as does Julius Evola. Evola is like a Carroll and Evola are both pre-existing accelerationists.
Trump just insulted Michigan government.
Oh no.
Why? He said, I love Michigan. One of the reasons we are doing such a great job for them during this horrible pandemic. Yet your governor, Gretchen, quote, half-witner, half-wit? Oh, I get it. He called somebody who's everyone's dying in her state half-wit. Is way over her head. She doesn't have a clue. Likes blaming everyone for her own ineptitude. #MAGA. So imagine. Well, so in terms of, I want the company run like a business. It's like, well, businesses, the bosses yell at other people on their abuses. So now you have a country run like a business. There you go.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, I remember who told. There's a guy who I was on his podcast, Adam Wadley, and we talked about this idea of Trump as analyst. That Trump is the world's analyst, saying what needs to be said.
Trump as analyst. That's a very interesting idea. Because he is very subversive. The analyst subverts, right? Isn't like who would ever consider to say, and he's subverting the narrative of, oh, it's just a simple narrative, which is respect the person who's the head of you have some basic empathy for them.
So I think the joy,
but of course,
joy and destruction of hierarchies, it's wonderful.
Well, he's a post-structuralist now. He's like he puts structure on top of the structure that destroys the structure. Is that I don't think that's what they would say postmodern conservatism in terms of, the obsession to constantly critique persons. Like, what is he doing? What is happening here? The Hegelian way. It's why does this exist? What is it? What is the reasons for its coming into existence? What is the desire it fulfills? Trump, the post-structuralist.
Oh, here's an interesting idea. I don't know if you ever read The Holographic Universe, but in it, the guy makes this argument that all therapy has a degree of effectiveness because it fulfills a concept of therapiness, and that is the extent to which it is effective. What would you say?
Yeah. It's possible.
Like the degree of effectiveness being relatively unimportant, but all therapy has a, therapiness which has that product. I think that's another really...
I argue, but then you argue what is the object of mental health? And I would say there's a therapiness in relation to in terms of how do you assess your future predicting algorithm in its enjoyment, and then part of the accuracy, part of the enjoyment could be the accuracy, but then that's sort of the easiest mechanism, I think, is to have a good sorting mechanism. So the more it has that, the more therapiness it has. I think
we form another good, by assuming that
there could be a Jungian mistake, though, in terms of the Jungian mistake would be the archetype of the therapist. Fuck that, honestly. In terms of, that's why it's you go okay, what's a very rigorous new definition of the object of mental health? You could say it's sorting algorithm. It's a cognitive dissonance sorting mechanism.
I think you're right in making the distinction between the difference between the Jungian mistake and saying Jung's mistake. Jung would not say that it's the archetype of the therapist. He recognizes that there is a therapiness which various figures hold. That it's Jungians. Oh, and 1 second.
Yeah. He left. He left and he said 1 second, so now I have to run his YouTube channel. Wait, maybe I can do an impression of something. I don't know, man. He's back. He's back. Welcome.
So, but yeah, what's it called? The Jungians make the mistake of identifying archetypes as figures that are eternal, which is the huge mistake. They don't recognize that there's purely a similarity and an energetic flow between various symbols and beings. It's not like there is one therapist, but rather therapistness, therapiness.
Therapinicity.
Mm-hmm. Yoga.
The aesthetic.
Yoga live stream.
I wish I could do my my personal problems on the live stream, but
yeah, we'll do that personal.
I mean, if I was like Justin Murphy, we could just get into it. I could just make this my therapy session.
I had a great time with Justin Murphy. I really enjoyed that one.
He's a nice guy. I should write based Hegel, and you should write based Jung, and we'll join his.
You want to, honest to God, do you want to do it? Because I'll do it.
I am going to write based Hegel for him. I didn't.
Okay.
I am going to do it because one, he offered me in advance. I mean, I probably shouldn't say that, but and two, the percentage would be like way better than
Zero.
Yeah.
Is he private?
I mean, Zero's cool too.
What, does he just self-publish it?
Yeah. I think I want to convince him to make a press or something. I'd like to convince him to do that. Make a Justin Murphy press.
Based Young is coming then.
Based Young. You should message him. I'll pitch it to him.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, we'll both pitch it to him. I feel like he wants more people to write for that series.
I'll just the joke is gonna be the whole book is about Lil B. It's all about based God.
Based Young.
Yeah, it's gonna be about the archetype of basedness.
Baseness. Oh, that'd be cool actually.
That'll be it.
That's a good book actually. You should write that. Yeah, pitch that to him. Absolutely.
There's a meme, a really funny meme. It's, Joe Pesci and Goodfellas. It's like based on what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Based is an old one. I remember seeing Based forever.
Yeah. Well, Based initially was the base God, and then the alt-right takes it like it takes everything good. They're like, oh, that's our thing. It's like, that's not your thing. You just took that from this other thing. And then,
because I think that based, or at least my own personal view of based, is like based in nature or base nature. So something being based is like, this has a foundation. This is real. Oh my God. Who is Hello, Biodoomer. Hello.
Bio Doomer. Who is this?
I like
the way you look, bro.
The aesthetic is there.
And is that snow behind you? No, that's a barn behind you or something.
No, we're in a undisclosed compound in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
okay. So do you know Caleb by any chance? No.
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah. I know you guys though from Sigmund
Memery. Okay,
yeah.
Because you kind of have a similar Pacific Northwest vibe, and I wondered if you were someone who he knew up there or something.
No, I've been in the Pacific Northwest for roughly a month now.
Oh, okay.
Did Escape from SF, purely following memes of like, whoa, this virus is getting pretty crazy. I better get out of here before they lock the shit down.
Yeah. Did you get out or no? Are you locked down?
Oh, no, we got out and we went up the coast a bit and settled somewhere a bit more remote.
Oh, okay. Puget Sound?
What's that?
Puget Sound? I don't know.
Something like that. It's a small town. There's a whole history of this town past. They had the Chinese Exclusion Act, and this town was particularly strict in enforcing it. This is
interesting.
Day. Although they repealed the Chinese Exclusion Act in like 1960.
Yeah.
It's pretty recent, actually.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Huh. You think of that as a gold rush thing, not a 1960s thing.
Mm-hmm.
But shows what I know.
Well, I guess it's like the end of the gold rush. Right? There's no more gold, and there's just a bunch of Chinese people taking all of the cheap jobs, and it's like a good, like, and all the people in power are like the white settlers, so it's a good recipe for just like really intense like racial exclusion.
Yeah.
Now we'll have that part 2.
You know what the thing about China is? They named America American is Maigo-ren, which is beautiful country. So why would they call America the beautiful country? That was, first of all, why would they brand another country this beautiful country? It's like, of course they're gonna go there. Of course, you know.
I don't know.
It's like there's this new country. What are we calling it? Beautiful country. It's like
America does have some.
And then you're like fucking around 1800s. You're like, where do you want to go? Fucking beautiful country. I hear it's a beautiful country. It's called beautiful country.
But like it's marketing, right? It's like, and who made that phrase and why?
Yeah, I wonder if an American made that phrase.
I was just hearing about a guy, Robert Fortune, an Englishman who went to China to gain the secret of tea making. And he just started dressing as a Chinaman and made it deep enough into China where they thought he was Chinese. They'd say like, "Oh, where in China are you from?" You say, "Oh, over there." And they'd be like, "Oh, that's great." And they started giving him the secrets of making tea. And then he just went over to Calcutta. Yeah. And he had taken tea, but one of the people watered it with salt water and destroyed it, but he still got the information.
And did you know Germany is called the virtuous country in Chinese? Jesus. Chinese is interesting. But also it kind of sounds like this guy says it also sounds like America, America, maybe. A bit of both, maybe.
But yeah, you said earlier about like a new type of racial exclusion. But what I see forming more is like, sure, like that's kind of happening maybe a bit in the background, but more intensely, there's like a new type of new class forming where you have like the koofers and you have, I don't know, call it like the biodoomers, the preppers, the bio-chads, like people who are...
What is a bio? First of all, what's a bio-chad, like a doomer, like the Wojak, bio-doomer?
Yeah, like someone who's seriously, even to the point of just following it as a meme, but like leading them on a path of like stocking up and so forth, building your e-harem. Meanwhile, like the koofers running around the city without their masks, like unaware, koofing, getting koofed on, like completely unaware. And you know it, they're like,
memeing sick people as koofers. And then bringing it back to real life. That's wild.
1 second.
Koofers. They are the koofers. You're a Generation Zyklon, correct? Or are you a millennial? You're a millennial.
I'm an honorary Zoomer. I've been knighted by an honorary Zoomer.
An actual Zoomer knighted you as an honorary Zoomer.
Yes.
And what's the name of your pop punk band?
My pop punk band? I only do like industrial ska electro punk wave.
I knew it. So yeah, that's what I was calling it.
You probably haven't.
That's interesting, though.
I agree with this formation of the classes. Like, I was up to date on the virus from like early January because of a bunch of guys I know who were like into the memes. The discourse on the virus was solely memetic for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw like there's a really good meme about it where it's like one of the like the giant photographic chads, and he's like, "Would you like to come into my base? I have," and because the girl's like, "Oh, why do you have all this hand sanitizer? I thought the stores were sold out." And he's like, "A small community of anime internet Nazis told me that this was going to be the happening. I was prepared. I have all this stuff. I was hoping to get a harem of e-girls." And I don't think it's far off. I think that it was honestly, and there's something Nick Land talked about too, like Slate Star Codex had a thing where it's like a bunch of the people there were already doing, virus protection stuff.
I feel like I could be more extremely online. I think this conversation makes me want to define my world more through memes. I want to go out and be like, look at these koofers. I think I could really double down on this, on the meme.
He who makes a meme of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man.
Did someone write that, or did you just say that? That's good.
Just Sam Johnson.
You're gonna write that down.
Fired. Yeah.
It's like the opening line in a Fear and Loathing. He who makes
Yeah,
a
exactly.
beast,
Yeah, beast,
alone.
yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Fear and Loathing, what do you think about the popularity of the adrenochrome conspiracy?
I
the
know
resurgence.
It's not a conspiracy. I know someone who personally did that.
I know it's real, but what do you think about the popularity of it?
The popularity, people don't know what it is. I think people don't.
It's become popular on Twitter. It was fucking trending. Adrenochrome.
It's a meme, but adrenochrome is the real. What it is adrenal mescaline. And what the Hells Angels used to do, which Hunter Thompson used to be a part of, or he hung around them, so he figured this out. But I know it not from Hunter Thompson books, but I know it's from an actual like Hells Angel person.
Taking it out of the eye.
No, you go to the morgue and you get adrenaline from the morgue. So they had contacts in the morgue, so they would have they could shoot up adrenaline. So because they're fucking a biker gang, and they have crazy contacts like that.
Interesting.
And so they would mix it with mescaline and they'd shoot it. And that's adrenochrome. And apparently, I said, I asked him, what's it like? It's
interesting.
Fucking crazy.
Because even in Fear and Loathing, there's a mythos around it. Even then, where it's like harvested from like a pineal gland that's already like well explicated in the film. So you think that's like a mythology around like the adrenochrome culture?
Well, they did prove that what's it called? That DMT comes from the pineal gland. So like in near-death experiences that occurs. So I think that the myth of it being related, of like there being this perfect psychedelic coming from the pineal gland, already exists.
So that, and it's valid. It's not even a myth then. Like I drink once in a while like mugwort tea, and that kind of makes you have just a little bit of like a DMT deep dream experience. So you just have a very vivid dream. I imagine if you were to intake so much and smoke DMT, for instance, or intake it in some other way, you'd have an incredibly intense experience.
And I was just talking about mugwort today. Mugwort tea, St. John's wort.
Are the days of the biker gang over? I kind of want to. Should we form a psychology biker gang?
Absolutely.
Are you up for it? Should we become motorcycle riders and then do adrenochrome?
Yeah.
Sell. Yeah.
Yes. However, it's like we should. I'm interested in enacting that. Let's call it like archetypal formation. Now we're all like remote and we're all on the internet and we're not like, we don't have like leather clad muscle physical.
But we don't have to let that stop us.
Those spiker energy, but we have some other type of energy. So there's some other type of formation we can meme ourselves into. There's some construct here to be discovered.
But the gasoline is going to be so cheap. There's no reason to not start the biker gang.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to use my Trump bucks on towards a bike.
Well, see, now we're making the similarity to Scientology clear, because Scientologists love motorcycles, all of them.
No, they don't. Do
yes,
they?
They do. They do. That's one of the things.
Maybe East Coast Scientologists.
What? No. Did you watch The Master?
No, I didn't watch The Master, but it didn't. Okay, I don't know anything about Scientology. Maybe you know more about Scientology.
They know. They love motorcycles.
I feel like it's an insult to biker gangs to say Scientologists are biker gangs. Maybe they do. That's possible. Like lame bikers.
They are.
Not even doing adrenochrome.
Exactly. They're doing, they don't believe in drugs. They're like very anti-drug.
Wow. Good for them.
But yeah, I guess any drug would be kind of like deleterious for the like mind control of a cult.
Very true. Very true.
Outside of its own bounds.
On the contrary, sometimes drugs can induce
belief.
Right. Yeah,
like
if
Charlie
it was like
Manson.
worked into like ceremoniously into it, sure.
Charlie Manson and his fucking LSD cult or whatever.
I think
he's like a great
MK Ultra victim.
Mm-hmm. Just like blows Capone.
Was he?
Someone.
No, he wasn't.
Yes,
Charles Manson was an MK Ultra victim. I know Kaczynski was.
Laurel Canyon. all the guys coming out of Laurel Canyon
Uh-huh.
were, MK Ultra.
They were MK Ultra.
The Doors, the Mamas and the Papas.
Hey man, maybe.
I don't think so. But I've been against the Doors for a while because Morrison's father, started the Gulf of Tonkin.
Mm.
Yeah, isn't that something? It wasn't also like Frank Zappa's dad was some dude like in the army, some high ranking. Like
it's all military intelligence out there in Laurel Canyon. They were all children of, including what's her name, including the girl who died from Manson. Oh fuck.
Oh, yeah. Her.
No, not.
Cheryl Tate. Cheryl Tate.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like MK Ultra, let's say, as a hyper efficient social form, right? And like perhaps like the genesis in this like locale and time and space, and now I would venture to say is like been completely taken over culture, and like precisely by how it operates, like we don't know, or we only know like so much. Like we understand maybe now through advertising, and it gets more and more obvious over time. Like some parts of like stratified hierarchical mind control culture operates.
Here's a question, Eliot. Do you believe in mind control? Do you believe in hypnosis?
Oh, yeah, of course.
What do you think about Scott Adams' hypnosis?
I like Scott Adams. I've read his from a very young age, actually. I've always thought his takes on the human mind were interesting. I think even Wetware I got from like an old book of his that I read when I was 10.
So, because this is Sharon Tate. That's right. My argument for
Wet Robots. That was in his. But Wetware was before him, but he would say humans are essentially programmable wet robots.
Interlude here. There's this really interesting book from the 70s from like one of these doctors who was heavily involved in like MK Ultra experimentation during kind of like the Renaissance period of that. It's called Programming the Human Biocomputer. But I believe that's
John C. Lilly.
John C. Lilly, Programming the Human Biocomputer, and it's like it's an incredible small tome of like all this language, like talking about people as computers and like reformatting their drives and using different types of like drug therapy.
He also did LSD with dolphins.
Oh yeah, LSD with dolphins type thing. Someone was just talking to me about that the other day about the LSD dolphin experiments.
Well, dolphins do drugs. Dolphins will they'll torture pufferfish to get high.
Well, I was thinking that once we really accelerate like neural computer interfaces, we'll establish communications with dolphins and maybe octopi. And at that point, like the feedback loop will set in. The dolphins will kind of realize what's going on. They'll get access to the internet, and then they'll like produce. And by that point, our culture will be so highly digital, and like mimetic capitalism will be more of a thing. So like the dolphins will realize they have all this really valuable content that like humans haven't been exposed to, social forms. Like
I'm excited to see the first dolphin meme. I want to see the dolphin.
So eventually we're gonna crack the brain code so much that we will communicate with dolphins as persons. Although chimpanzees and they can't communicate. Even the ones that know like the gorillas that know like can't sign language can only learn like 80 things.
Do you know about how monkeys have reached the Stone Age?
No.
Yeah, they're using stone tools now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You ever hear about like this thing about the 50th monkey, where like if like 49 monkeys start doing something, the 50th one will do it, but it will spread. It can spread to like an alien island, an isolated island. A monkey will start doing the same thing. Like they'll genetically like pick up this ability. Like if one island,
maybe
has monkeys, I didn't make it up. It's true.
Morphogenetic field theory.
Mm-hmm.
That like there's the field of forms, like some sort of like platonic, like a field that is more platonic kind of exists, And if you have like genetic similarity, you share a similar space within that field to other members of your species. So like if a certain behavior pattern exists locally somewhere, then like that form can replicate, and that information can replicate via some like quantum superposition magic, and the other monkeys can like tap into that. It's kind of like how biological explanation for like panpsychism might work.
I think that's why the idea of like the yogis, like the 4 yogis sitting on mountaintops dictating all of what the earth does is very fascinating. Like the idea that there are a few, arbiters of collective behavior. There's just a few people who produce what is done. And I think that would, maybe there's 4 monkeys who develop every ability. So every monkey develops at that rate.
Yeah, I would put a lot of credence in theories and ideas like that, because it seems that like information naturally compresses in kind of like a concentric way, and that's how evolution even operates. And like humans have access to like so many more degrees of freedom because we manipulate information at a level that monkeys can't, and it goes like all the way down, but also all the way up. And there's like a latent informatic field that we're like emerging into, evolving into, and thus the higher you get, the more subtle you get in your degrees of freedom, influencing whatever like the latent structure of like informatic fields are, like exponentially more leverage you have downstream to influence, the material world, the psyche.
You just reminded me, and I have the great way to explain what I wanted to say in the beginning, Eliot. Viruses are structured like language.
In what sense?
Cells are structured like language. Things with information inside of them. Pills, just like Plato's pharmacy, words as pharmacon. If word can be medicine, a little pill with information inside of it, viruses function in the same way. Yeah. That is why I find it suspect that everything functions as language. Either there's a single source code, which is language, or everything is viral. Language itself is, then Burroughs is right, and language is virus. Language is just the product of the viral structure.
Well, virus is protein, which is chemical reaction, and
then we're back to your.
Then we're back to the chemical reaction.
Yeah. So is that where we're going? So we need psychology and chemistry. That's what we need.
Well, like in a contiguity, as one thing that is the same, perhaps on like a sliding spectrum of understanding at different levels of scale. It's like complexity emerges into itself, into higher orders of complexity. And like language, virus, it's like how information replicates, right? There's a scarce matrix, a scarce space in which information can occupy. And there's certain optimal strategies for information. And through the process of evolution, it's about like exploring different strategies about how to replicate a pattern of information to like the largest available grid space, like material real estate to occupy. So yeah, I think this is like the concept of a namshub, of like virus as language. It's like as really the same thing.
So memes are going to become the most powerful.
Virus as language.
Memes are the biggest.
Memes are the most like the biggest asset class.
Oh yeah, I like your take on the memes matter take in terms of the politics being essentially mimetic, and then you can look at how much is exactly mimetic. Language is structured like a meme. Language is mimetic. One person learns the meme of language, right?
And memes are just
so we communicate through language, which is essentially meme, because it's repeated things from. Did I just blow your mind? I feel like I blew my own mind there, bro.
And memes are just viruses because it's just.
And language itself is meme.
Something very attractive in the concept of like the pseudotype. Yeah. There are viruses that have a lipid coating that appears as another virus, but it holds different information, like different RNA.
The question is, what meme will take hold?
Yeah.
The question is, right? What meme will guide? What meme of the month will it be this time?
Because and this has been my prediction. Well, my prediction is this: like, I think that what we are witnessing the. Do you know about like how before before Muhammad brought Islam and Allah, the Mecca was used to worship like thousands of idols.
Oh, I had no idea.
All these thousands of idols and jinn, all these various gods that all the merchants worshipped. And we are in that state right now, mimetically. There are all of these different gods, all these different idols being worshipped. But what will happen?
You know what? It's interesting in terms of what meme will take hold. Trump is literally the meme who took hold.
Yeah, but I think he's a prologue of what will. I think he's Muhammad.
Yeah,
he is the Muhammad bringing in the mimetic Allah. There will be I think he is.
Well, he already was a meme before. He was a rich person meme, like in the 80s. He was the rich person meme, and then he became the presidential meme.
I gotta get.
He was a meme who woke up, right? He realized he was a meme, and he
realized he was a powerful.
That's why I think who made a mistake to not have a more serious run at the presidency? John McAfee.
John McAfee.
I was on a podcast that John McAfee was on, the Randonaut podcast. And if John McAfee's watching this, if he's listened to the other one, I will be your mimetic advisor, John McAfee.
You should tweet him because he talked with the panel guys when he tweeted him. So
it would be so he would be so easy to meme into the presidency. Like I honestly think he's one of the.
He's a scam artist.
Is he?
Yeah, he's like a legitimate scam. Like he doesn't scam you and me, but he'll scam.
We're talking about politicians here.
That's true, but I mean, he's
another one who's not a politician.
Out of the US.
He's a scam artist who I can respect.
Trump is a scam artist, but Trump isn't
he's a scam artist.
And exiled for being a scam artist, right?
Like John McAfee is unabashedly what he is. I did watch the Randonauts podcast the other day. I thought it was great, and I had many of the same thoughts about this guy's got to become 2024 president and get on his meme team and stuff. I thought about this of what's the optimal strategy to coalesce that type of happening. I think it's kind of the neo post industrial economy strategy. It's information economy, provide value first. So it's provide high value mimetic content that grabs his attention unmistakably and keep producing it. And then he'll be look, I got to have you on my team.
He hired some weeb. He just hired some nobody to be on. No, I'm not trying to be mean. Maybe they're really funny, but they just hired somebody to do it.
So that's great. In terms of employment prospects, let's say if he's hiring low level weebs and we are high level weebs who can unionize and maybe make some cult. We don't want him to know who we are. To be a mysterious meme organization that gets shit done, and he's going to want to onboard that organization.
This is the final step of MemeAnalysis. All right, who else? Who's this? Oh, is that Victor?
Yeah.
Oh my God! I'm so happy to see you.
How you doing?
Forever.
Man?
You're doing good. Now we have the whole team. We're starting the mimetic cabal.
The mimetic cabal. Yeah.
We will influence every election from this point on. Anybody who we are for hire, but also we might, what I mean. We'll just destroy it. Whatever, I've wondered actually what
is that a pea coat you're wearing, Victor?
Oh, it's an issued East German officer's coat. Took over my pajamas.
I was gonna say that's a very interesting outfit. I didn't quite understand what was happening, but it's an East German officer's jacket.
Yeah, I collect the stuff.
It's nice.
Thanks, Eliot.
Yeah.
We kind of have an interesting kind of duality. You and I, Eliot, we have the blue and the pink, and they have the casual and the military, the uniform. We've got
the hippie and
a psychologist.
Is this a political compass?
A military officer. And a
shit, this does work for a political compass, man. Holy shit, yeah.
I don't want to be color wise.
Well, we are political compass. Are we all in the same grid space right now? Can we all see each other relatively in the same grid space?
Yeah. I'm in the top right in mine, and Chris is top left.
I'm right lib. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, you're right.
Me and Chris Gabriel should be switched, I think. But
that would make more sense. Being in the
libertarian.
Just 1 second. I'll be right back.
But yeah, we need to. But I think this is something that I've considered. Like, and not just my own, but when meme analysis becomes a popular thing, like, even though I'm pretty much one of the only people doing it, there's another guy actually who reached out to me recently. He has a channel, but it's more about YouTube stuff only. Like, his Blair Chapman, he does it, but he's a cognitive guy. But he had, but when meme analysis catches on,
it already is kind of catching on. I see you.
it's definitely getting started.
When you post something, like a good amount of people watch it.
But when it catches on in a big way and meme analysis itself becomes memetic, I think that that's going to be really dangerous, because if memes and the memosphere becomes aware of its being analyzed and aware of its own nature, that could open up very bizarre doors. Like, what if people know how memes function and know what memes can do? What will be produced, you know? What kind of, it'll be, memes will themselves be postmodernly, deconstructed. Jen,
Yeah, you posted the Doomer philosophy. It got like 20,000 views.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Then the Boomer is like 2.3 and then 1.3, but your popular one gets like 20,000 views. That's good. That's good, bro. It's not bad.
To speak on your point there, I think it's precisely this process of like becoming self-aware. It's like memetic evolution, right?
I'm like checking your stats. That's like, tacky, isn't it?
Pre-ironic, ironic, like post-ironic, meta-ironic, something like that, where it like keeps going in these cycles. Perhaps like seeing what happens in communities that are already at the post and meta-ironic stage of like their memetic evolution and like how they're evolving, or it will be a good indicator of what will happen to society at large once this type of like memetic self-reflection really becomes ubiquitous.
I think that will, because I really do think, and I think that Eliot, I think you have the best idea of this, psychoeducation. When psychoeducation through memes becomes the norm, that'll be, absolutely amazing.
Well, that's what I did, right, with psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Freud page is like...
Well, initially, the Freud stash, when it was nobody, I would just... As soon as I got my degree from grad school, I'm like, okay, I know that if I post, like, things shitting on them, on their modalities, after they gave me the degree, I can't get kicked out. Because they were very, they're very big on the... The rad lib is... reactive bullshit. So I was like, okay, so now I can make psychology jokes on the internet and not worry about people from my school seeing it or something.
So you think it was having the enemy of CBT that allowed for the Freud page to boom? Because I agree, I think that's why.
Yeah, I think partly, but I think also psychology. You don't actually have to learn about psychology to be a therapist, really. You can give life advice. You can give your sort of intuitive advice. Right, and I think people do learn a certain brand of psychology, but I think it's essentially active libertarianism in terms of it's like, hey man, I don't know, what do you know about that sort of your life, and then mixed in personal opinions. But it's
just teach everybody to read tarot cards. It'd be just as helpful. We need really efficient tarot card reading methodology, widespread.
Yeah. I did a tarot reading. Oh yeah, do you do tarot still?
I'll bring the cards out. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah.
Deck right here.
Nice. You did
What's your opinion on the tarot, Eliot?
You can certainly draw things from them. I think insofar as we were talking about what is psychic ability, and you can intuit stuff about the person, and then the card has a certain symbol of set of things, and you can sort of see how that person said it, and you draw that out of them in some way, maybe. I don't know.
All right, so
we got dual tarots here.
Yes.
We got Chris's tarot reading. Can I get it?
I'd rather hear Chris's because I'm more of a novice.
Chris is more of a novice?
No, I am.
Oh, you are? I thought you were I was like, all right.
Yeah. So, anybody have a question in particular?
I just need past, present, future. That's my tarot. When I do tarot, sometimes I do randomly generated. You can go online.
All right. So here's the past.
Okay.
We have futility, the 7 of Swords.
Yes.
So an inability, there was something that was blocked, something that you were trying to do that was inefficient. It wasn't, you had a direction, but you were beset on all sides. It was not efficient. It was not producing.
Yes.
Now you are undergoing great labors to kind of undo this faulty act, the faultiness of that direction.
What was that second card?
Work 3 of discs. Work.
Oh, okay.
So also what was in the air, what was an ephemeral failure, is now being made successful through material work and a material element. But I don't
What's
think
my
that
future?
This is
it's 4 fish.
It's not a great one. The Knight of Cups. He's fire and water. He's very conflicted. It's 2 elements against one another.
I love it. That's my jam, bro.
So I'm like, there's a lot of the same color scheme. A lot of like light blues, and so I would say that the thing that you're trying to do might just not be what you really have to do. Like this, I think you might be putting a lot of work into something that might just not be able to be established.
Incorrect, bro. I'm chilling.
Okay. All right. Just vibing.
But maybe. What the
cards said. Do you want me to keep? I'll pull another for the future. It's not like one card only.
All right.
Or do you want more on the past or the present?
Let's do future, bro. Okay. I'm all about future.
All right. I think in relation to the Queen of Swords.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of girls like that, man.
Yeah, chopping the head off, right?
Yeah.
She's got her head carrier.
Oh yeah, truly.
Judith.
It really do be like that sometimes.
Judith and Holofernes.
It's half my dating life there.
No head.
No head. Can I get mine?
Yeah, of course. All right. Do you want the past, present, future, or do you have a question?
Yeah, past, present, future, right?
All right. Can sense dishes being washed.
Whoa, psychic.
All right, we have valor.
In your future, I see dishes.
So
hell, that's a lot of dishes.
I think you had many things besetting you, but you were kind of overcoming them. You're destroying what was limiting you. Sexy. Maybe a relationship. Maybe. In fact, what I would say, there were people who were preventing you from getting into a relationship, which you have now. What is the word? Fuck.
Overcome.
Consummated. You've consummated the.
I was gonna say overcome as well.
You've gotten what you wanted now. What other people are preventing you from getting, and yeah, I think this is and this one it's interesting because this shares the same character, where it's all the same kind of color presence, purples and reds. So most certainly, I think you're overcoming something, gaining the necessary power to, and it might be a relationship, I don't know, or it might be some kind of goal, some feminine goal that you're trying to take.
Bro, I'm reading that. Yeah. Anyway.
How are you reading it?
No. Go for it.
That was it.
I was reading my.
Yeah. Kind of makes sense, Yeah.
I'm reading the internet.
Not much to say.
I'm reading the Internet Knight of Cups, Chris, and it doesn't seem like a terrible card. You read it as a terrible card.
You got to read. You got to read the Crowley version.
Okay.
Because it might, you know what I mean. You don't want to go with the hippy dippy. You want to go with the Crowley definition. He sees it as a schizophrenic.
Using the firing flames, bro. What was I just saying about the fire god today?
But it's not. It's like the fire god, if he's drowned,
represents the fire and the element of water, trying to bring contrast and balance. Well, that's me. Using the flaming fires to advocate the passive waters. Therefore, there is a certain instability within this knight's character that can shift from one side to the other. Raya is the world of emotions and sensitivity, and the Knight of Cups might have good senses for art, poetry, lyric. His compassion can make him a good healer. If he manages to reach real depth and inner conviction, he will be able to provide rich tenderness and emotional warmth. On the shadow side, his quickly rising emotions could be overwhelming, but without depth and reliability, when the fire's spontaneity won't be able to harmonize with the depths of the waters, he is friendly but passive, easy to inflame, but his interest can fade as quickly as it is flamed up.
Jim
and at its worst, even appear as fakery and falseness. So the Knight of Cups may also appear as an unsteady character full of unripe ideas and failed attempts. Drive, self-sacrifice, self-redemption, grace, poetry, like compassion, solicitousness, sensibility, shadow, seducibility, vanity, unsteadiness, sentimental obtrusiveness, artificial untruthfulness.
Jim just had a massive burn for Crowley. It was unbelievable. Yeah. Crowley viewed thing as schizophrenic. Wow.
We have a fucking monocle going on.
Yes. Johnny or Adam. How are you doing? Are you working with the government? Oh, that's right, you're muted. It's okay. You can stay muted if you want. Do as thou wilt. Are
you saying that because he has a pentagram behind him? So do as
no,
thou
I have the pentagram right in front of me. If I had a mirror, I would show you. Let me see. Like, nah, black mirror.
A lot of satanic vibes in this group.
Heavy satanic vibe. Now that we have 5 people.
Speaking of which,
and we are, there it is. Yeah. And that's my favorite number. Side number 5.
Really? I'm more of a 7 guy myself, or maybe 42. 42 is very
virtuist. A virtuist is a 7. A technocrat is a 5 with the hand.
Technically. Somebody's got feedback. Or no, maybe not. No. I don't know. Anybody else want a card reading?
Biodoomer.
You want a reading? Or you could give your own reading.
Yeah.
I can. But I'd rather you. I have already done that. So why don't you do it?
All right. You want past, present, future? Or you want a specific thing?
Yeah, past, present, future is good.
Okay. All right. We have worry, material worry. So that kind of goes with what you were saying. You're escaping from your material condition out of, this fear of the virus coming. But now, okay, good. Now, but it was productive. You are now you have a bit of a foundation. You are growing something now that you're in that comfortable space. And, but now you're in danger. You're
He's growing something.
Ruin. What you're trying to do will, there's going to be much breaking it up. Don't think so much. Stop thinking. You're thinking too much. The thinking is what's going to demolish the material security that you have secured. So that's what I would advise against. Does anyone have experience with 420 Grower? We have a synchronicity engine right now. These cards manifest synchronicities, my friend.
All right.
I don't know how well this segues. I've never been one for great transitions. But
who's one for great transitions, bro? I want to make that part of my character. When people say my name, they're gonna be like, he has great transitions. I'll appear in a screen like this.
What's his name? The guy who made Star Wars. He the one who made Empire. He's really good at transitions. It's good.
That man could segue into like 5 different conversations. Like that. That was a great man at transitions. But anyhow, we were speaking about all this satanic stuff. But a good Christian Latino boy that I am today, I woke up early to watch the fucking Pope. And
how was the Pope? How's he doing?
He's great. I actually met him once. By met, I mean I saw him across St. Peter's Basilica. Great guy. Argentinian, but that can be fixed.
Argentine Pope. Yeah, I thought he was flawless. So being Argentinian,
that's one step away from Nazi.
That's the only way you could get like a Spanish-speaking Pope. You had to be the whitest one possible. Like, let's get an Let's start with the Argentinian. They really like the Catholicism over there. It's like, well, we're gonna have a Mexican Pope. Mexican. Let's go with an Argentinian Pope.
get like the Argentinians from like Ushuaia, right? Who think they live in Europe just because they wear fucking parkas outside every day.
Who do you think the next pope will be? Can we hyperstition the next pope in this pentagrammic satanic circle?
I think it's gonna be, I don't know. We've run out of Hitler Youth people,
Kanye
so I'm
West.
thinking
Kanye
maybe
West
some guy. Kanye West he's not a Christian, he's a Protestant. He's an evangelical. Right?
I think next pope will be very reactionary because they tried the Radlib pope, and that people are like kind of lukewarm to him now. They're like, oh, he's like progressive pope. Not people it's like no one gives a fuck.
I'm not gonna lie.
Next one's gonna be like fucking return to fucking
have you seen
Inquisition pope?
The young pope? Have you seen the young pope?
No, I
haven't yet. No.
The young pope is exactly that. It's an extraordinarily reactionary pope, and people love it. And I agree. I think that is what will happen. But like this pope, the pope.
Look, they've already predicted it, right? That the fiction already predicted that same. They don't know what they're doing, but they're actually predicting what the will is for the next pope, right?
I think it's probably going to be, if we're going on the reactionary thing, I think they might stay in the Americas, but they'll choose that really reactionary bishop in the USA. Because he's got a lot of
Zoomer pope.
What if we had somebody who committed like a real miracle? What if we had a big miracle happen and he has to be the pope?
You can't. Those don't exist anymore.
Here's my
Pio had the.
Who's the last one who got
sainthood?
Padre Pio. He had stigmata, and he was not that far away. That was like early 1900s. So it could still happen. I think there's still miracles left.
No, Catholic Church. They're gonna be like, well, miracles are over, but they're gonna return to miracles.
We're making miracles great again.
They're gonna return to They're like, oh, we have progressive history. It's like, nah, we have meme virus history.
Yes.
And the next meme virus will be meme reactionary.
They should get like the Zoomer scientist atheist pope.
Yes. Enlightened by his own euphoria.
And like condemning people to hell. That would definitely increase the conscription rates to Catholicism.
Just somebody like really violent, like somebody like the Donald, like no, heretic,
No one is seriously like subscribing to like Abrahamic religions anymore, but people.
What do you mean? All of Islam.
That's not true.
Okay, no. Let me.
Also,
let me
come to where I work, bro.
Like converts, of like Zoomer. Maybe that's there's a lot. Okay. As like Zoomer converts, I see like even the people who are getting into religion, there's like a definite like accelerated ironic aspect to it. So that's what I'm saying. And like bringing in a pope who can tap into that like cultural ironic energy and bring people over.
Also, I'm just letting y'all know. I think we'll have like maybe 5 more minutes and then we'll go. We're getting to like 2 hours, but we should do it again. This is like Sigmund Freud's Dank Meme Stash mod chat part 2.
It's not like I have anything better to do, mate. Even though this is pretty great, I probably procrastinate on my work if I had anything better to do, as I've done in the past. I think the Vatican is just too serious, so that would be amazing.
The virus is going to wipe them out. 100% of Vatican City will be infected. And it'll be like the opposite of all the other countries where it's like the majority are asymptomatic. They're just all going to die.
It's like in the Canticle for Leibowitz, when the flame deluge came, they just had to have New Rome in like Arizona because that's all that's left.
That would be horrible. Oh my God.
Imagine in 10,000 years imagine population getting to like 100 billion.
Or do you know how in Dune there's like the remnants of the remnants of Christianity?
Arizona's gonna be built up,
Catholic
man.
Bible.
Might be fucking New Jerusalem by then.
I haven't read Dune yet. No.
Julius Caesar was only 2,000 years ago. Imagine like 8,000 years from now.
Do you think we'll go to space? Also, Do you know how Hubbard, Hubbard's goal was mimetic immortality rather than genetic immortality? Like, he wanted to be the last human name to be remembered.
Did he say that? That's funny.
Yeah, that was his goal. He wanted to be like the last person to be.
Well, he's a
remembered.
cult leader, so that's that'll get you remembered by your cult.
Well, I think what's going to happen is I
Scientology
think
cult.
genetic reproduction is going to become, passé. It's going to all be mimetic reproduction.
No.
I think that a lot of the power structures will become mimetic.
Well, people will still like genetic partners, eh?
I agree, but I think that
they'll return to tradition,
in terms of power, it will all be,
That's my Jordan Peterson. That was obvious. Anyway.
Check out Nick Mann's essay, Hyper Racism. And he's essentially like, well, like regular racists and anti-racists are going to meet up when the future arrives because true discrete racism is gene trading. It's like creating power through like the modularization and the trading and the concatenation of genes into more and more powerful, like Nietzschean cyborg Ubermensch. And that will be the true, like then the final class split of like current humanity.
So we all quit psychology and get into bioengineering and become intelligence eugenicists.
Well, genetic engineering is the easiest on-ramp for that.
You need to make people that are like 1,000%
Just CRISPR and CRISPR everybody.
I think like humanity is gonna go extinct at some point, and we'll just have sentient machines who think they're human and whose like entire like internet subconscious is inherited from humanity.
That's what we are, man. We're just the biological robots of our previous ancestors, man. We're already that, bro.
Hashtag deep, bro. Bro.
All right, but it's been good. So I'm gonna.
All right, yeah, 2 hours.
All right.
Yeah, let's set out.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm good. So
Biojimmer, good to meet you. What's your name?
Good to meet you.
Is that top secret?
Add us.
I'm
on
Lewis Parker.
Lewis. Oh, you're Lewis Parker. Yeah. I recognize the name.
Yeah,
you wanted to meet me in New York, wasn't that right, Biojimmer?
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, get back here.
The apocalypse hit.
When you're back, we'll
meet
up.
Yeah,
you guys are over in London.
Have a
I'm gonna go to London once it's all over, Victor.
Good, yeah.
Because what's it called? Everybody's there. Like everybody, all the stash is there. We're gonna have mass. I
even met Douglas Lane in London. It was great. He's a great guy.
Have you talked with Misha Mayfair and like Zoe?
I'm gonna meet Zoe. I'm friends with Thomas, but I haven't met Zoe yet. But we message.
I'm serious. We need to get Asafal to meet in public. We need to get we need to make it in real life. We need to have conferences.
Oh yeah.
We just need to get Sergio out of Texas,
Yeah, we need to secure power. We need to secure physical power.
Funny. As like once the virus rolls over and like MemeCon being like the celebratory event, like capture all of that power into the rejuvenation.
Did I tell you what I'm calling it is Uncon? It's the unconscious convention. Uncon.
It's ready. The unconvention.
The unconventional conventionists.
There was this. Okay, there was this point where there was like Mark, me, Thomas, and Pablo. And we founded the Psychotic Internationale on a Nando's in London. So, yeah.
We got it.
About time the Psychotic Internationale got more people together.
We're going to make it happen. All right, everybody. As always, remember, memes matter.
Memes matter.